If you are someone who has plans of becoming an entrepreneur, or you want to have a good, healthy relationship, or you want to keep a job, or you want to not get kicked out of school, this episode is for you. Today, we're going to be talking about accountability. Everyone wants to be the boss. They want to be the entrepreneur. They want that relationship. They want that high grade. But you got to hold yourself accountable. Because when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, people start to lose trust in you. And what does this translate into? When you're in a relationship, hey, I'm going to show up to our date on time. You show up 10 minutes late. Now, that's bad for the relationship. You want to get into college, but you never come to class on time. You want to run a business, but you never put in the work. You say you're going to do it, but you don't do it. Welcome to Empowerment Hour with your host, Lawrence C. Harris. I'm a youth empowerment speaker, author, and entrepreneur. And recently, I've been thinking a lot about accountability and how everything in our life is really the result of us if you come down to it. There's things that just happen. Like laws, that's not you. That's you didn't make that law. Gravity, you didn't make that. Getting hit by lightning, not your fault. What I'm saying is that when you have plans to go do something, such as starting your business, but you never post about the business, you never make the website, you didn't put out content, you didn't start the channel, you didn't make the bakery. Yeah, I have ideas about it. Okay? I can't buy an idea. I can't give you money for the idea. I can't support the idea. Yeah, man, I would love to have this relationship. Okay. But did you say hi to people? Like, whether you're a man or woman, guy or girl, did you say hi to somebody? I want that girlfriend, I want that boyfriend, but are you putting any work in to get it? Because accountability at its root, in its simplest form, is doing what you say you're going to do. And when you don't do it, you hold yourself to the standard. In running my business, I have to post content, I have to email schools, I have to do a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. And earlier, I was going to leave out, early today because I wanted to go home and, help clean up around the house before tomorrow. But I said to myself, wait, Lawrence, you said you're going to make an episode because today is Friday, even though this is going to be uploaded on Saturday. On Saturday, I have to help, clean the house. So I wanted to get an early start on it. So it's not as much work to do tomorrow. And as I was about to leave out, I remembered, nope, you got to hold yourself accountable. You have to lead by example. Because if I were to say, no, but I'll do it another time, to skip this week. Once you start doing something, it's really easy to keep doing the thing. Once you start saying, nah, I'll take a day off. No, I'm not going to do everything I said I'm going to do. No, I'm not going to hold myself to the standard. I know I said I'm going to do my homework tonight, but I just don't feel like it. I just can't be bothered. Because, see, there's a difference between you needing rest. There's a difference between something extreme came up, like a car crash or a fire or something like that. That's different, okay? That is different. What I'm referring to is when nothing crazy out the norm happens and you just say, no, I know I said I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, but I just only do X. I'm only doing X. You have to hold yourself accountable because everybody wants to be the boss, but very few people want to be the employee. A lot of people who get into entrepreneurship, they think, and this is how I thought at the start, foolishly, they think that I'm just going to, be this CEO. I'm going to call all the shots. I'm going to be the boss. Okay, great. But you do realize that the boss gets held to the highest standard because when the business isn't going well, they look at you. You're the one running it. When the business isn't making products, isn't making content, isn't delivering, When there are problems, they look at you, they're like, "You're the one running this." So you have to hold yourself to the highest standard. So you can't ask, and this goes for relationships too. You cannot ask of someone else what you are not willing to do. You cannot ask somebody else for loyalty if you're cheating. You cannot ask someone to show up on time if you're always late. You cannot ask someone to do something that you're not willing to do. So when I say that as an entrepreneur, you need to become the boss and the employee, the boss is the planning version of you. Think of that as planning. You're writing down what needs to be done. Create a website, make 5 posts, read a book, whatever you need to do for that day. And the employee, that's who has to go and do it. And you have to become both. What I mean by that is every night before I go to bed, I have a whiteboard in my room. Like I actually have a literal whiteboard. And I write out what do I plan to do tomorrow, such as go to the gym, read a book, make Instagram posts, record a video, go to this meeting, do everything I need to do. I write it all out. And then when I wake up, I'm in employee mode. Lawrence, when he's planning and writing things down, that is boss Lawrence, CEO Lawrence, founder Lawrence. And when I wake up, I'm employee Lawrence. The employee, he got to go do it. Every time when I write something down and I say, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, when I wake up and I don't feel like it, I'm tired. I don't feel like it. Boss said I got to do it. And I hold myself accountable. Every time I don't do what I say I'm going to do, I have to write out to myself why. Okay, I didn't, like, too much time went by. I wasted time. Okay, we got to stop doing that. Make a schedule, make a calendar, set notifications, put timers on your phone. Figure out what it is you need to do to get where you want to be. And then also, when you go and say something to someone, this is called a pet peeve. Like, man, I just hate when people are late. Are you late? Before you point the finger outside of you, hold yourself to the same standard. Because people tend to measure others with a different stick than the one they measure themselves with. It's okay when I do it, but it's not okay when they do it. It's okay if I lie to people, but it's not okay when they do it. Because no, see, I only told a little lie. I only told a white lie. A lie is a lie. Not showing up on time is not showing up on time. Not doing what you said you're going to do is not doing what you said you're going to do. And there's reasons for it. Like there's reasons, and some of these reasons make sense. Like I said earlier, if there was an emergency and something crazy happened, it makes perfect sense for you to not get done everything you said you're going to get done. If something popped up and it like really stressed you out, okay. If you had to go watch your brother and sister, so that changed the plans. Okay, I understand that. But we don't want to let the inconsistency become a habit. We need to hold ourselves to the standard that we want to be at. Because there is a quote, I believe it by Alex Hermosi, that people don't rise to their expectations, they fall to the level of their standard. At least he's somebody I've heard say it a lot. And what it means is that your standard is where you're going to go. Like that's where you're going to go. If your standard is every day I go to the gym, with some exceptions. Like I said, it might be Christmas, there might be emergencies that happen, you might have to watch your family, you might have to take an extra shift at work. So those are understandable. But without a doubt, the vast majority of the time, you will hit the standard that you say. And when you put down an expectation, like tomorrow, I'm going to do 500 push ups, it's possible. Like, physically speaking, unless you have a medical condition, your body can do 500 push ups. Maybe not in a row, maybe not in an hour, but within a 24-hour period, it is possible to do a 500 push-ups for most people. Now, there could be upper body issues, like physical strength issues and things like that. But there's variations of push-ups. The point I'm trying to get at is that we can set very high expectations, but if your standard, like if the amount you are going to hold yourself accountable to is only 50 and you only do 50, that's when you're going to say, oh, okay, that was enough. I'm tired. I don't feel like it. But your standard is where you're going to go. It's like your default setting. For me, every single day, or at least the vast majority, I'm at this office and I'm making these videos and I am emailing and I'm planning and I'm doing all these things because that's my standard. And I hold myself accountable to that. Now, if you translate this into a job, you have to hold yourself accountable when they ask you, well, why are you late? Before they ask you, you need to ask yourself, why did I show up late to work? Why did I not turn in my homework? Why did I do something I know I shouldn't have done? And be honest with yourself. You cannot hold back because when we hold ourselves accountable, we have this tendency to sugarcoat it. We have this tendency to be, sweet and gentle, like, oh, it's not my fault. This thing happened and that thing happened. And that could be true. Like, it could be true. It's possible that the bus was supposed to show up at 10:30 and it didn't show up until 5 PM. I'm just using that as like a crazy example. The bus broke down. There's nothing you can do about that. Like, you cannot change the fact that the bus broke down. But you can ask yourself, okay, next time when this situation happens, can I put a plan in place? Like, can I call an Uber? Can I get a taxi? Can I get my own car? Can I call a friend to drive me? When this happens again, what can I do? That is taking accountability for the fact that, yes, I cannot control that the bus broke down, but I can control figuring out how to make sure I get to work on time. I can find a way to make sure I get to school on time. And if you haven't like sat down and learned how to be really honest with yourself and hold yourself to the same standard you would hold someone else with, naturally you're going to be less accountable than you would like to be. Because it is really easy for us to look at other people and get really mad and say, oh, you showed up late, you didn't do this, you lied to me, you cheated on me, you did this, you did that. But when we do it, we sweeten it down. We're like, oh, but we tone it down. And that's something I believe a lot of people can work on, including myself. Most pretty much everything I say, before I say it to someone else, I say it to myself. When I talk about accountability, I'm saying this because it's something that I had to practice earlier today. I was about to leave out early without doing everything I said I was going to do. But I caught myself and I said, no, hold yourself accountable. And then I fired up this camera and I started making this video and this podcast, and it's all going to be posted on Saturday when I normally would. And the last thing I want to say before I close this one out is that when you first start doing this, you don't want to be too harsh on yourself. You want to be honest with yourself. You want to hold yourself accountable, but it doesn't mean that you need to be mean to yourself. It doesn't mean that you need to say, "Oh, because I didn't do everything I planned to today, I'm going to double it tomorrow." No. You need to gradually increase the standard to a level where you're able to hit it. Because if you could not do 50 push-ups today, like you were unable to do it, don't try to do 100 tomorrow. Instead, lower the bar. Say instead of doing 50, I'm going to do 30. And if you can't do 30, say I'm going to do 25. If you can't do 25, 15. And you want to increase over time because you need to be able to do what you're capable of. And if right now you're not capable of doing 25 push ups, a 1 mile run, reading a book, working on your business, going to school, having a job, if you're not capable of doing all that at once, just hold yourself accountable to what you can actually do. So the point with that is figure out where you are capable of right now. Like at this time in your life, what are you capable of? And that is the standard you're going to hold yourself to. That's what you're going to be accountable for because you can't do it all at once right now. As in to say that you can look at other people and you might see a person who they work 18 hours a day. That doesn't mean that you have to. That doesn't mean that you have to say, I'm going to work 18 hours too. No, I'm going to work 5. I'm going to work 4. Whatever is something that you can consistently hold yourself to. Because the person who can consistently do what they say they're going to do is going to be the one who is able to achieve the bigger results. So those results in your life might look like somebody else can study for 3 hours straight nonstop, but you can only study for 30 minutes. Okay, your standard is hold yourself accountable to 30 minutes of studying. Somebody else, they might be able to have a girlfriend, right? But right now, you're shy, you're nervous, you don't know how to talk to people. So that doesn't mean that you need to try to hold yourself to that and say, okay, I'm going to get a girlfriend too. If you want one, instead of saying, I'm going to get one tomorrow, just say hello to people. Hi, what's your name? My name's Lawrence. What's yours? And you do that over and over. And eventually, you hold yourself accountable to things within your control because you cannot control the outcome of something, but you can control what you do. And accountability isn't about trying to control the outside, it's about being accountable and controlling what you do. This is why when you set your standards and you write out what you plan to do tomorrow, you want these to be things within your control. You cannot control if you win the lottery. You cannot control if somebody wants to talk to you. But what you can control is the work you put in. Did you go to the gym and do X, Y, Z? Yes. Hold yourself accountable to that. Did you do X, Y, Z? No. Why? Because I've had this happen too. I'm not perfect. There's a day when I forget to do stuff. There's days when I don't do what I said I'm going to do. I ask myself, why is that the case? I forgot to do it. Okay, put it on a calendar that notifies you. Now I don't forget to do it. Or I had something pop up, like I got really stressed out and like I just did not have the energy. All right, figure out how to manage your stress in order to be able to continue doing what you need to do. Great. I started doing that and now I hold myself accountable. So I know at this point I'm probably just rambling, but I'm sure within that you guys got value. So make sure that you subscribe to the podcast, give me a good rating. And if you happen to be interested in purchasing my books or getting one on one coaching calls, you can find those in the description below. Have a great day.